Good morning, dear students of 8th standard. Continuing with the chapter Crop Production and Management, today we'll be discussing three topics, that is the protection of the crops, their storage, and the harvesting. So starting with the first topic, that is the protection of the crops. The crops mainly have to be protected from the weeds. And let me tell you what are weeds. Weeds are the unwanted plants that may grow along with the main crop. And what is the disadvantage is that they compete for air, water and sunlight, and this is then denied to the main crops. So this affects the growth of the main crops. Then the production will be less and it will be disadvantages for the farmer who will have the less production. So it's very important that these crops have to be removed. So these weeds have to be removed. So the removal of these weeds is called as weeding. And there are various ways of weeding. One is tilling. Now this is done before, and that is what is done is in this the weeds are tilled, that is they're uprooted, and then they may get mixed up with the soil, and then they are not going to be any harmful. And the best time for the removal of the weeds is that is before they produce flowers and seeds. This is one way, that is tilling of the crops. And the second is the manual removal. In that the implement used is either the khurpi or a seed drill. So what is done in this, the weed is cut very close to the ground, and then the weeds are removed, and that way they will not interfere with the growth. Then one more thing is which can be done is that is the use of the chemicals. Now these are called as weedicides, and one of them is 2,4-D. That is one of the weedicide which is used for killing of the weeds, or they are sprayed on the weeds so that they destroy them, but they do not interfere with the other crops. So however, the farmers have to be very careful in using these weeds. What is done? They are diluted with water and then they are sprayed during the vegetative growth, children. Before the weeds, they flower and produce seeds. So it's very important that they are removed before only. So that is during the vegetative growth. That is before flowering and the seed formation. Now this spraying of the weeds is a little dangerous. So for that, the farmer has to be very careful. So the precautions have to be taken because it can affect the health of the farmers. So what they have to do, they first of all, this chemical is to be diluted with water, and the farmer should cover his mouth and nose with some cloth, and then this spraying has to be done, and that also during the proper time. So one more thing you have to do is, as an assignment, is look for 2 or 3 more names of the weedicides which are used, and also find out the full form of 2,4-D. And please find out and search from the net 2 or 3 more names of the weedicides which the farmers used. So this is how the crops are prevented from getting affected by the weeds. Now the last is all these methods have enabled the farmer to grow the crops. Now it's the time for reaping the fruit, that is for cutting of the crops. So that is called as harvesting. So what is harvesting? It is the cutting of the crop after the crop is mature. And for that, the crop is cut very close to the ground. In this also there are various ways of harvesting. So the farmers who cannot afford the machines and all, so they do the manual harvesting. That is, the implements used is sickle, and this is done manually. And the farmers who can afford the machines, so they use a machine harvester. And after that, the cutting of the crops, threshing is done. So for that, what is done? There is the separation of the grains or the seeds from the chaff. So the seeds have to be separated, only then they are available for consuming. The farmer sometimes can also use a machine which is called as combine. Now this combine is a machine which is used both for harvesting. It's a combined machine for harvesting as well as for the threshing. So no separate machines are used. So the farmers actually who are rich, who can afford, so only they can use. Otherwise, the farmers who are not that, those who do not have those many facilities, so they do it with manual, they do it manually. That is, they use a sickle. Now, what happens is, after the crop is harvested, there are the stubs, that is the remaining portion of the stems of the crops which are left, which are usually burnt by the farmers, and this is very dangerous, children. This causes a lot of air pollution, and there have been many cases in Punjab. That is why there is a lot of air pollution in Punjab. For this, the government has also implemented strict laws that farmers will be fined for burning of the stubs. So the stubs should not be burned because it causes a lot of air pollution. Now after this, the separation of the grains has to be done from the chaff. For this, there is also a manual separation for the farmers, as I told you, who cannot afford the machines like combine and all. So manual removal is done by a process called as winnowing. So in this, the farmer holds the grains with the chaff and lets them fall from a height. They are made to fall from a height in front of a fan. So what happens is, the grains being heavier, they form a pile, just a heap just below, and the chaff which is lighter is flown away with the air and makes a separate heap. So that is how the grains and the chaff, they are separated. Now children, you know that it's the harvesting time for the wheat. Of course, we are in such a state that we will not be able to celebrate this festival. So Vaisakhi is the harvest festival of Punjab, and we usually start harvesting on the Vaisakhi. But other states also have the various months and the various festivals in which they are celebrated. So on page 11 of your book, there are harvest festivals mentioned, but you have to look for the states in which they are celebrated. So that's your assignment, that make sure that you look for the states in which they are. Like the harvest festivals mentioned are Pongal, okay, Holi, Diwali, Navanya and Bihu. So these festivals are associated with the harvesting. So you have to find out as to which states they are celebrated. Now last is, now the grains have been harvested, last is very important, is their storage.